I am the daughter of two poor villagers. We lived in a quiet, forgotten corner of the world, far from anything you might call modern. Our life was simple, peaceful. We knew from the merchants who passed through that other races existed in the wider world. But I never truly believed in monsters, not until my own fiancé, my childhood sweetheart Brandon Roosevelt, sold us all to them. The monsters came in the shape of wolves. When my father, his voice shaking with hurt and fury, demanded to know why, Brandon just smiled. And then he changed. His body twisted and grew, becoming one of them. He looked down at my father with cold animal eyes.
Blame your daughter,
He snarled.
for being so soft-hearted. How can you raise such a stupid human?
His lackeys laughed, a chorus of harsh, guttural barks. My mother, in a final, desperate act, pulled my sister and me away. She hid us in the basement, behind a secret door she prayed would go unnoticed. But they had the senses of beasts. They found us in moments. I remember the sound of splintering wood, the sight of my sister being dragged away, her screams tearing at my soul. I fought, I clawed, but it was useless.
Throw this one with the rest.
Brandon ordered, pointing at me. Then he gestured to my weeping sister.
But keep that one secure. She and her sister will fetch a high price.
His betrayal was a physical blow. His words, they froze me solid. I was numb, trapped in a nightmare as I watched our village burn. The world became a haze of orange flame and black smoke. I saw villagers, good, kind people, run to help me, only to be captured themselves. It was as if I had been buried alive, my ears filled with earth, disconnected from my own body. The shock began to thaw into a cold, sharp terror when they shoved me into a cage. I screamed for my father, my voice raw. I scanned the faces of the other captives, all young, all around my age. I didn't see a single elderly person. And then I saw him. My father, fighting his way toward me through the chaos. Our eyes met for one last, heartbreaking second, before he fell, his hand stretching out for me, forever just out of reach. Once the cage door clanged shut, my eyes darted frantically from one terrified face to another, searching for my sister. She was gone. I started to shake. And then with the others, I broke. We sobbed for the entire journey. A heavy drape was thrown over our cage, a feeble shield against the biting wind. It did nothing to stop the cold that had settled deep in our bones. In what felt like a single day, I had been transformed. From a normal, happy girl looking forward to her marriage, to a slave in the depths of hell. Eventually, we arrived. We were all herded into a cold stone cell. One by one, the others were taken away. Every time the cell door clanged open, a part of me died. I watched as girls, most of them mere children and teenagers, were led off to an unknown fate. Until finally, I was the only one left, shivering alone in the silence. But then, rough hands dragged me not to an auction block, but to a decent room. It was almost unnervingly normal. A single chair, a simple table. And then, he walked in. Brandon. The sight of his face unlocked something inside me, a torrent of grief and a rising, sharp hatred. I didn't think. I lunged at him, my dirty nails aimed for his eyes, but he was so much stronger. He pinned me against the wall with effortless cruelty, then let me drop to my knees. How could you do this to us? To me, I saved you. You were dying. I gave you a part of my life, and this is how you repay me? My father gave you a job when you had nothing.
Of course I won't let you suffer, Ruby. I just let you stay here long enough to break your pride, to turn you into an obedient slave. Your old world was a fantasy. Now wake up.
Rage, white-hot and pure, flooded my veins. If he had never come into our lives.
You will be one of my personal slaves. Rest assured, my wife will treat you well.
Wife? The word hit me like a physical blow. He was married? When? Had he been married all along? The humiliation burned as hot as the betrayal. I had fallen in love with a married man. Before I could stop myself, I spat in his face. He recoiled, wiping his cheek with a snarl of pure fury.
Fine, rot in hell then.
After glaring at me one last time, he stormed away. The next few days were a new kind of horror. I was put to work. For scraps of food, I labored from dawn until late into the night, scrubbing floors and hauling water. I was bullied, pushed, and tormented. Then after 2 weeks, he returned in the middle of the night. Everyone else was asleep. A bitter, grim satisfaction washed over me when I saw him. He looked pale, exhausted. It was written all over his face.
If you become my slave, this suffering ends. I will treat you well, for the sake of our old affection. You will sleep in a clean bed. My wife knows you are my savior. She will treat you like a sister. She is a sweetheart. Ruby, let me pay you back.
I looked at this man who had once promised under the moonlight to marry me and only me for the rest of his life. My mind went blank, filled with a deafening, static buzz. I stared at him, a hysterical laugh bubbling in my throat, but only tears streamed down my face. Every day I had told myself to be strong, that one day someone would save me. Not Brandon, but someone else. I clung to my father's old words, the ones he'd say when I couldn't solve his puzzles. No matter how hard life is, there is always a way out. But little did I know, I was wrong. In this, there was no way out. Except one, to swallow my rage and accept his deal. And yet, Brandon, I started. Let's break everything here. I heard from your people that a proposal under the moonlight holds significance. So, we were engaged. Since you are married, our engagement is void, and I would rather die than follow you. I still remember how we got engaged. My father was against it. But I had insisted. Brandon's head snapped up. His eyes filled with disbelief. For a single fleeting moment, I saw a flicker of panic. But it was gone as quickly as it came, replaced by a cold, hard laugh.
This isn't what I wanted. Void. Who do you think you are? If you don't become mine, you will die. Can't you see that? I am the only one who can save you. No one else will ever treat you right.
And I still refuse.
I am giving you a choice. If not me, then the beast will claim you. No one has ever survived a single night with the beast.
If you wanted me, you could have taken me easily, Brandon. Giving me a choice when I have none is your special kind of cruelty. Do you still think I'm that stupid?
Yes, you are. So, be stupid for your own sake, and forget the past. People die every day. It's not a new thing. Get used to it.
His tone was perfectly calm, yet every word was dripping with venom. And in that instant, something inside me finally broke free. All the old feelings, the love, the longing, the hurt, vanished, leaving behind a cold, clear calm. Slowly, I reached into the folds of my ragged clothes and pulled out the necklace he had once given me. I had kept it, hidden all this time. He looked around, as if embarrassed, before reaching for it. His eyes lingered on the simple hand-carved pendant for a moment. Then his fist closed around it. I heard a sickening crunch as the wood splintered in his grasp. I stared, stunned. He had carved that necklace with his own hands. I had watched him work for weeks, believing it was a labor of love. and yet, to him, it held no value at all. Without another word, I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there. I returned to my cold, dark cell. To be honest, I felt relieved. It was never a good idea to fall in love with a werewolf. After Brandon's visit, the punishments began in earnest. Food became as rare as a needle in a haystack. I worked tirelessly, but the bullying intensified. The last shield I had, his twisted, lingering affection, was gone. Then, on the third night, as I lay struggling to silence my empty stomach, I received a visitor. A stranger, a woman, clad in fine, silken clothing, found me while I was sweeping the floors long after the other servants had gone to sleep. I was forcing myself to move, just to stay warm. She was followed by 2 attendants, who slapped their hands over their mouths as they looked me up and down.
So dirty.
I felt the heat of humiliation rush to my cheeks.
So, you are the dirty human my husband can't stop thinking about. Tell me, are you a witch?
My eyes widened like saucers. A witch? I wasn't that ugly. I'm not that ugly. To my surprise, the woman let out a sharp, genuine laugh.
What a silly thing you are. I decided to have you killed this morning. But seeing you now, I think mercy might be the better option.
She waved a hand, dismissing her servants. Once they were gone, her expression grew more serious.
I have no particular love for humans. But my father was once saved by one. Still, the world is a cruel place. So I will not stain my hands with your blood. I will let the world itself decide your fate.
With that, she swept away, leaving a cold dread coursing through my veins. After a moment, a shiver racked my body. There was nothing to do but resume cleaning. I needed to stay warm. Maybe if I worked hard enough, they would give me something to eat tomorrow. After a long and tedious night, I was finally given a meal. And what a meal it was. Real meat, with creamy mashed potatoes. For a moment I thought I was dreaming. But the dream ended abruptly. My nightmare returned, only it became worse. Rough hands grabbed me, dragging me outside the castle walls and deep into the forest. The man who threw me out shoved a small, crude knife into my hand before turning his back. I had tried to escape before, in vain. But now, tasting freedom for the first time in 2 months, I ran. I ran like my life was hanging by a single frayed thread, terrified that whoever had released me would change their mind. Then, slowly, the adrenaline faded. I stumbled to a halt, my breath puffing in white clouds in the frigid air. I had nowhere to go. No home, no family, nowhere to run to. The hope drained from me, and I slumped against a frozen tree, weeping bitter, hopeless tears. Night was falling rapidly. And with the darkness came a sound, a heavy, labored breathing that promised nothing but danger. I could feel the threat of it deep in my bones, and yet, a strange, instinctive voice within me told me to follow it. It was like a calling, a pull I couldn't explain. Clutching the knife, I crept forward, following the sound to its source. There, lying injured on a bed of pure white snow, was a wolf. It was immense, far bigger than any I had ever seen, even bigger than Brandon in his true form. And suddenly, the memory hit me with the force of a physical blow. Finding Brandon in the woods, injured. He hadn't been nearly as bad as this. or as large. My mouth went dry with a bitter taste. My fingers tightened around the hilt of the knife. Heart hammering against my ribs, I took a slow, cautious step forward. My knuckles were white around the knife's hilt. This creature was a monster, a beast, and someone had clearly wanted it dead. The wounds were too savage, too deep. This was not the work of a human hunter. This was the work of its own kind, and I wanted it dead too. It opened its eyes. A deep, molten gold. There was no hint of intelligence in them, only a feral, bestial rage that made me recoil in pure fear. A low, rumbling growl vibrated through the snow beneath my feet. Every instinct screamed at me to drive the blade into its heart. But I was weak, starving, frozen. My arms trembled, not just from the cold, but from a memory. Another injured form in the snow. Brandon. I had saved him then. I had been scolded for it. It was the first time I had ever performed the healing ritual alone. We all knew the ritual. We used it to heal our wounds, but it required many people so the life force toll wouldn't burden one soul. But I was naive. He was handsome, and I thought he was my prince. I did the ritual alone. I suffered for it. A part of my life was drained, leaving me with a single, stark strand of white hair as a permanent reminder, and he had repaid me with betrayal. This time would be different. I would be the evil one. I stared at the wolf's blood staining the snow, then back at its fierce eyes. The old ritual required a dance, blood, and sacrifice. It would heal his wounds, but it would also bind him to something. That was the balance. My grandmother's voice echoed in my mind, as clear as the day she told me.
Use this to bind your will and curse whoever wronged you. But be warned, child. Only use it when death is the only choice left.
Death by the cold or death by this gamble? I chose to gamble. By my pain, by these thorns. Let your fate be from this hour born. Not by my life, but by this blood. Your fate shall be sealed. Bound will, bound mind. Your forever shall be mine. Die by my hands or heal what's been broken. This is the break of your curse. As the last word left my lips, the world shifted. A single blood-red rose sprouted from the patch of snow where his blood had fallen. I screamed as sharp, wicked thorns erupted from the skin of my own palm, weaving around the rose's stem, completing its terrible, beautiful shape. The rest of the blood on the snow lifted into the air, weaving itself into threads of crimson silk that stitched his grievous wounds back together. It was as if time itself rewound. In a moment, there was no red on the snow. Just the giant wolf, the silent trees, and me, clutching the thorn-bound rose. I slumped to my knees, my consciousness teetering on the edge of a vast darkness. The beast stirred. The sound that emerged from its chest was different. Not a growl, but a deep, resonant groan of awakening. It slowly, powerfully, pushed itself onto its haunches. A mountain of shadow and muscle. Biting my lip hard enough to draw fresh blood, I used the pain to anchor myself. I crawled forward and snatched the rose from the ground. The beast looked down, first at the rose in my hand, then at me. There was no gratitude in his eyes, only a deep, genuine, and terrifying curiosity.
What did you do to me?
Brandon Roosevelt paced the length of his opulent chamber, the wolf within him restless. It had been 2 weeks. 2 weeks since he had last seen Ruby, and he still couldn't understand her infuriating will. He had set the stage perfectly. She was supposed to be broken, desperate, crawling back to him. She was just a spoiled human, and her pride would be the death of her. His plan had been simple. Let her stew in the filth of the slave quarters. Let the bullying and the hunger shatter her resolve. Let her see that her only path to survival was through him, and him alone. He would be her savior. The prince she had always wanted, but on his terms. He decided it was finally time to check on her, to offer his hand once more. But when he went to the slave quarters, she was gone. After questioning his men, his blood ran cold. The truth came out. She had been banished to the Deadwood 3 days ago, and the orchestrator was his wife. A flicker of unease, quickly smothered by raging irritation, coursed through him. He found Lady Anya standing calmly by the hearth, sipping a glass of wine as if the world were in perfect order.
I take it you are perfectly satisfied that I have solved your little problem.
For a single blinding second, Brandon saw nothing but red. Ruby's face, pale and terrified in the snow, flashed behind his eyes. His Ruby.
You had no right to touch what is mine. You stupid woman. I didn't want her dead.
Her cool facade shattered. Her eyes flashed with icy fury.
You what? What did you just call me? Remember your place, bastard. I did you a favor. You should be groveling with gratitude. I lifted you from the dirt. Do not make me remind you how easily you can be put back in it. One word from me, and the pack sees you for what you are. A weak-hearted puppy, led by his emotions.
The words hit him like a physical blow. His pride, his ambition, it was all held in her delicate, merciless hands.
I'm still the son of the previous Alpha, the future Alpha. You cannot speak to me like this.
A bastard son. We gave you this power. We can just as easily take it away.
She was right, and he knew it. He was born from an Omega, living in the shadows while his legitimate brother thrived. He had clawed his way up from the slave quarters, claiming the birthright his father had denied him. He had to be Alpha. He was the oldest. It was his.
She was mine to break, mine to command. She belonged to me.
The matter is closed. You want to be Alpha? Then you will listen to the council. They do not look kindly on diluted blood. And as for your little human, consider this a mercy. A temporary heartache is better than a lifetime of failure.
Without another word, Brandon stormed out. An hour later, he stood in the Deadwood with his most loyal men. The snow was deep, the silence oppressive. They found the place. The snow was churned and stained with dark, old blood. Brandon's sharp senses recognized her scent, intertwined with the coppery tang of her blood. And next to it, lying discarded, a single, crude knife. The very one he had given her. A slow, disbelieving laugh escaped him, a bitter, hollow sound in the silent woods. There was no body, no tracks leading away, no sign of the beast, just the blood, the knife, and the chilling emptiness. The forest was a graveyard around them. Every branch was cracked, every root blackened by the curse that had devoured the deadwood. Ruby followed the beast, her eyes darting nervously. The rose clutched like a weapon in her hand. The beast never looked back. He moved with a quiet, deliberate grace, savoring his first moments of clarity after years of being a prisoner in his own mind. He finally stopped before a half-buried archway, its stonework strangled by ivy and time. The entrance yawned open into an abyss, with only a single, faint pinprick of light sparkling in the far distance. "May I ask how this cave can protect us?" The beast looked back, a flicker of displeasure in his eyes. Solitude had not prepared him for a burden.
From what precisely do you require protection?
She fell silent, unease coiling in her stomach. Brandon would come for her. He had to. Sensing her fear, the beast turned away.
It is a fortress when you know how to use it, and it is not a cage, which is more than you offered me.
He ducked inside. She followed, the air growing cool and still. They walked through the darkness until suddenly they emerged not into a cave, but into the grand furnished hall of an ancient castle. The beast watched her expression, a grim satisfaction in his eyes at her stunned silence. The cave was the true entrance. The main gate was nothing but a trap. He led her to a heavy wooden table, inexplicably laden with fresh, steaming food. The castle was silent, devoid of any servants. Her stomach growled, but before she ate, Ruby carefully picked up a crystal glass, filled it with water, and placed the rose inside. She found a single beam of moonlight filtering through a crack in the high ceiling and set the glass down within it, gentle as if setting down a heartbeat. The beast watched from the shadows. The light caught the rose, making its crimson petals glow. For the first time, he looked at the source of his bondage and did not feel like a monster. When he looked back, Ruby was staring at him, waiting. To his surprise, she carefully took the largest plate and prepared a generous portion from every dish. She then knelt, setting the plate on the stone floor before him. She hesitated, as if wondering if she should find a low table instead. Gently, he placed a massive, clawed paw over her hand, stopping her. He gave a single, slow nod. He then hooked a claw into the roasted turkey, dragged it unceremoniously to the floor, and began to eat. They shared the meal in a silence that was no longer hostile, but contemplative. Days bled into nights. Almost 2 weeks passed. A strange, peaceful rhythm settled over Ruby. She was wary of the sentient castle and its master, but she rarely saw the beast. He was a ghost in his own home. He had warned her of dangerous rooms and hidden traps, then vanished. She began to wonder if he was a figment of her imagination. Then, during her wanderings, she stumbled upon the library. It was a cavern of forgotten knowledge. Books were stacked in teetering towers. A deep shame for her own ignorance burned in her chest. If she had known more about the world, perhaps she wouldn't have been so easily betrayed. Her fingers traced faded titles on cracked spines. She needed to learn. And so she began. The languages were archaic, but she pieced together meanings, fueled by a determination her father had always begged her to find. Her gaze eventually landed on a massive, leather-bound grimoire high on a top shelf. Its cover was cracked. Its gold lettering faded, but it pulsed with a silent, powerful call. She climbed a rickety ladder, stretching onto her toes. Her fingertips brushed the leather spine. The shelf groaned. With a gasp, the book slipped free and Ruby fell with it. She braced for pain, but instead landed on something surprisingly soft and warm. For a breathless moment, she was confused. Then she realized the beast's body was beneath hers, a solid living cushion. His dark fur was smooth against her skin, scattered pages drifted down around them like sad paper leaves. Her hand, of its own accord, stroked the fur of his shoulder. It was warm. His voice cut through her trance, a gravelly growl.
Foolish human, your curiosity will be the death of you.
I'm sorry, are you all right? His golden eyes scanned her body, sharp and searching, before narrowing. That flicker of concern was there and gone in an instant, masked by irritation.
See that you don't die a stupid death.
Then teach me. Show me how to defend myself. Show me how to run from wolves like you. The library fell into a silence so deep she could hear the dust settling. The beast went preternaturally still. Then a low, rumbling sound started deep in his chest. It wasn't a growl. It was a laugh.
Run from me, little human. I am the beast everyone fears in the deadwoods,
he said, his voice dripping with dark amusement.
You have just asked the wolf to teach you how to bleed.
The hall was vast and echoing, its ancient stone floor scarred with the ghosts of forgotten battles. Pale shafts of light slipped through cracks in the high ceiling, illuminating dust that floated like ash in the still air. True to his word, the beast had brought Ruby here to learn. She stood opposite him, small and tense, a lone figure in the cavernous space. He circled her with the silent, unnerving patience of a predator assessing its prey. He moved first, a controlled, fluid lunge that was deceptively graceful for his immense size. It was a demonstration of power held in check.
Again.
But now, there were no words. Just the sound of her boots scuffing against stone as she tried to mirror his stance, to find his balance. Her footing slipped. In a heartbeat, her back hit a cold stone pillar. The beast's massive form caged her in, his paws braced on either side of her head. His hot, rough breath stirring the hair at her temple. His golden eyes, once sharp with focus, now clouded over with something ancient and feral. The air between them grew heavy. Electric. Ruby's heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drum in the silence. She saw the monster surface, the raw, mindless hunger. It was the same terrifying gaze from the snow-covered woods, nothing like the calculating creature she had come to know. But instead of freezing her, the memory ignited a shocking, defiant trust. Slowly, deliberately, she lifted her hand. Not to strike, not to push him away. Her palm came to rest against the side of his muzzle, her touch steady and cool against his hot, bristled fur. The effect was immediate. The beast flinched back as if scalded. The feral gleam vanished from his eyes, replaced by stunned shock, and then a deep, settling horror at his own loss of control. He retreated several paces, turning his head away, his chest heaving. The silence that followed was thicker and more telling than any confession. Something had cracked open between them, fragile, dangerous, and undeniably real. Let's keep going. I can't afford to falter. In the days prior, she had learned to run. They used the castle as their arena for a deadly game of hide-and-seek. The deal was simple. If he found her, he would press the fight until she collapsed from exhaustion. If she evaded him, she earned time with her grimoire. So far, she had never won, and so they fought. At the stroke of dusk, the hunt began again. Somewhere in the castle's heart, the beast's growl reverberated, a low rumble that made the very stones seem to breathe with him. It was her signal to run. Ruby didn't hesitate. She slipped from her bed and vanished into the labyrinth of corridors. With every lost game, every failed attempt, she had carved the castle's layout into her mind. This place was no longer his fortress. It was her hunting ground. A strange sense of peace settled inside her. Then the sound of footsteps thundered somewhere behind her. He never ran. He never had to. He always found her. But this time, she would use that against him.
You're getting slower, little fox.
Her pulse pounded, but this time, she didn't let fear lead. The first time she had to run, as her village burned, she had been paralyzed. Fear was the enemy. So she plucked the same bravery she'd used to curse the beast, and she pushed on. The first time they played, she had been prey. Now she was learning to be a ghost. She used the castle's age as her weapon. Loose floor tiles, echoing halls, drafts that carried sound in wrong directions. A dropped key clinked deliberately in the west wing, and he followed the illusion she'd left behind. For the first time, she heard him falter. For the first time, he lost her. The beast stopped walking and started running. A new fear seized him. Had a curse trapped her? Had she stumbled into a dangerous, ancient spell? He could smell old magic coating the air. While he searched in frantic, genuine worry, Ruby climbed hidden staircases and slipped under the ballroom's shattered glass dome, finally entering the grand dining hall. The sun was dying beyond the high windows. It was time for the game to end. There, she sat, waiting. The beast searched every shadow, every crevice. The prey refused to be found. And then a whiff of her scent. The faint, perpetual fragrance of the rose that always enveloped her. He followed it. And there she was. At the far end of the impossibly long dining table, sitting calmly in the fading light, a small, proud smile on her face. The table, as if by magic, was laden with food. The beast stood in the doorway, worried, breathless.
Ruby.
Welcome back, I won. The beast stood frozen, not in anger, but in quiet shock. He had scoured the entire castle. She was human. How? The last rays of sunlight touched his face, and for a single, startling heartbeat, he almost looked human. Wordlessly, she placed his heaping plate on the floor where he usually ate, and then sat to her own meal. But before they could take the last bite, the sound came. Howls. Dozens of them, filling the night, coating the air with pure dread. A pack of wolves stood outside the castle walls, and a single voice rose above them all, yelling one word.
Ruby!
Ruby froze. The name shattered the fragile peace they had built. A peace she had come to cherish in the beast's silent company. But the voice from her nightmares unlocked a chest of pure, venomous hatred inside her. She bit her lip, the metallic taste of blood mixing with her disdain. As her rage surged, the rose on the table responded. Its vibrant crimson petals dulled, their edges curling inward as if poisoned by her mood.
The hunt begins early. Go hide. I will find you when this is over.
She knew what he meant, and she hated it. The first time she met him, he was bleeding out in the snow. She had saved him. His command tugged at a deeper, more painful memory, her mother's frantic voice from a burning village. No more hiding. Let's play the game, only this time, there will be two beasts.
Go. This is my fight.
You have nothing to do with this. He is here for me, so this is my fight.
You know nothing of my past, little fox. Do not be a burden. Go hide. Now.
The word burden struck deeper than any claw. Defeated, she turned and ran into the shadows, not to obey, but to escape the sting of his words. She found her way to the library, her sanctuary, and collapsed between the towers of books. Hiding. Just like before. She buried her head in her knees, her body shaking with silent sobs. She was still weak. still powerless. Then, the memory of the grimoire's pages surfaced in her mind. The ritual, with newfound determination, she reached for the heavy book, her fingers tracing the archaic symbols in the dim moonlight. She scanned the steps, her mind clinging to the instructions like a lifeline. After a few minutes of frantic study, she knew what she had to do. She hurried back to the dining hall, but it was empty. Her eyes fell on the rose, now looking frail. She carefully picked up the glass, cradling it against her chest, and ran towards the sound of snarls and crashing. She found them in the grand hall, a place the beast had forbidden her to enter. From a hidden balcony, she looked down. The beast was a maelstrom of fur and fury, fighting 3 wolves at once. He moved with brutal, terrifying efficiency, ignoring the claws that raked his sides and the teeth that sank into his shoulder. His only goal was total annihilation. And there, watching from the back, was Brandon, the mighty alpha apparent. His face was a mask of crumbling confidence. Ruby watched him, and a cold, grim satisfaction washed over her. She saw the coward behind the tyrant, and he was terrified. As the last wolf fell, the hall fell silent, save for the beast's ragged, panting breaths. He turned, his golden eyes burning with a hatred so profound it stole the air from the room. Ruby realized she was not the only one who harbored a deep, abiding loathing for this man. The beast began to prowl. A slow, deliberate circle around a petrified Brandon's body tensed to shift. But the thought was pathetic. His wolf was a pup before this titan. He was trapped, not just by the beast, but by the judgment of the pack waiting outside. His wife's pack, the beast, stopped. He rose to his full, terrifying height. And then, a slow, gruesome grin spread across his muzzle, full of dark amusement and sharp, deadly teeth.
Hello, brother. It's been a while.
Ruby's breath locked in her chest. Brother. Below, Brandon's face mirrored her shock, but twisted with pure terror. The brother who was supposed to be dead was alive. And he was the terrible beast used to execute his enemies.
Kaelan, that's impossible. No, I saw your corpse. We all did.
And I thought you were smarter than you let on.
Ruby's heart stopped. Kaelan, his real name, a forbidden name, whispered in the slave quarters, a name spoken only to describe a prodigy, a ghost.
The witch said you were no longer an obstacle, just a means to an end. She said she killed you.
Oh, she did, in her own way.
His voice dripped with mockery.
I gave you mercy, brother, and this is how you repay me.
You gave me nothing. You had everything while I had none. I lived in the dirt.
And you should have stayed there. I allowed you to live in that village even after you murdered our father. That was my mercy. I blinded the rules for you, and you betrayed me, handing me over to the very corruption I fought. Look at you now, a puppet to the ones who cursed me.
Brandon flinched like a whipped dog, and Kaelan's rage, buried for so long, finally broke free.
Did you enjoy it, watching me kill those who opposed you? Do you know what it is to be a prisoner in your own body? To be powerless, screaming inside as you tear innocent lives apart? I forgave you once, brother. There is no forgiveness left in me now. Only rage.
Kaelan pounced. Brandon shifted into his smaller wolf form, dodging the attack. The fight was less a battle and more a brutal game of cat and mouse. From the balcony, Ruby felt the world tilt. I cursed the wrong person. In my fear, I hurt the one who needed to be saved. Tears welled in her eyes as she saw the depth of his pain. Her thoughts were drowned out as doors burst inward. A new wave of wolves poured in, their eyes glowing with a unified, malicious magic. These were different. Kaelan didn't move. He simply exhaled, a slow, disappointed sigh.
I was hoping for a fair fight, but the corruption runs deep and is as cowardly as ever.
They lunged as one. The hall became a storm of claws, cracking bones and spraying blood. But for every wolf Kaelan crushed, 2 more took its place. And then, a chill swept the hall. The air grew heavy, bending with unnatural weight. The wolves paused. A vortex of violet light swirled in the center of the room, and a figure stepped out.
You have caused enough trouble, forsaken prince.
With a flick of her wrist, chains of black smoke erupted from the ground, coiling around Kaelan's limbs with the force of mountains. He snarled, his muscles straining. But the chains only tightened, driving him to his knees.
Brandon, be a big brother for once and end it. Pay back the mercy I gave you.
Kaelan would rather die than return to be the feral beast. Brandon stepped back. The witch was too powerful.
Interesting. You were meant to be feral, a beast.
She sniffed the air.
This is an ancient bind. I'd forgotten it existed.
She walked to Kaelan and touched his head.
I see you've met a shaman. We can't have that. Not a simple bind. It has rules. What is the rule, forsaken prince? What must you do to break it?
Kaelan refused to speak, but Ruby's first words to him echoed in his mind. Heal what's been broken.
No matter. I will override the shaman's curse with one of my own. It's a pity. These binds are connected to the shaman's soul. If broken by force, the shaman dies.
She laughed, a cruel grating sound.
You were never meant to be free.
Her eyes flicked upward, straight to Ruby's hiding place.
Come out, little spark. Don't be shy.
Ruby's blood turned to ice. As she frantically searched the grimoire for an answer, a small, broken shadow moved at the corner of her eye. Hello, Ruby. Do you remember me? I was the cup in the library, the one you broke. Fear surged, but the cup was gentle. It offered a deal. Their help, in exchange for her promise to break their curses. The moment Ruby accepted, the shadow merged with her own. It guided her on a detour, to pick up a simple, forgotten ring and to leave the grimoire behind. When she finally descended, Brandon's eyes lit up with possession. But Kaelan, bound, crushed, looked up at her. His golden eyes softened for the first time. Not with fear for himself, but with fear for her. And that broke something inside her. If you touch him, I will release every curse in this castle.
A little spark like you can't understand the grimoires here. I made sure of that. Your village escaped my notice, but you are the last of your bloodline, little shaman.
Come to me, Ruby. I will protect you.
Ruby glared at his extended hand, her hatred burning like acid. The sleeping ones, the sealed ones, the hungry ones. I will release every single one of them. Do you want to see what happens when they wake? Knowing them meant she could release the curses. The witch was confident Ruby's words were merely a lie, but not anymore.
You wouldn't dare.
Try me.
Come with me, Ruby. I will never let you suffer again.
She ignored him, her smile cold and focused on the witch. Release him. Take your wolves and go, Brandon.
No, leaving means my work is undone. The prince must remain feral.
Then I have no choice. I'm sure the shadows underground will be happy to find the light again. The witch swallowed, defeated for now.
If we take you, We'll leave the beast behind.
The witch wanted to argue, but this was the only path that didn't risk unleashing hell. Kaelan roared, a sound of pure despair, but the chains choked him into silence. Ruby knelt beside his massive head. She leaned in as if to kiss his brow, and instead whispered into his fur, "I'll be back. I promise I'll survive. I always do." The world snapped back into existence in a whirlwind of smoke and fractured magic. Ruby hit the cold stone floor with a jarring thud. Behind her stood the witch, her face a mask of pure fury. They were no longer in the cursed castle, but back in the familiar, unsettling prison of Brandon's fortress. Ruby pushed herself up on her elbows, her stomach twisting. She forced herself to breathe, to remember she had a plan. She wasn't alone. The little shadow was still a cold whisper at her feet. She raised her head, meeting Brandon's wild gaze. His chest heaved, his eyes blazing with a raging internal war.
Ruby, you escaped me once. It is not going to happen again.
His words were low, dripping with a bitter possession. She scrambled to her feet. Desperation radiated from him like heat. The witch watched, seething, as Brandon dragged Ruby to his room and locked the door, her plan challenged by a girl who was supposed to be dead. Once inside, Brandon threw Ruby onto his bed. The heavy lock clicked. He leaned against the door as if he feared she could simply vanish through the cracks. She slowly stood, steadying her breath. "Why were you looking for me, Brandon? Why chase me through the deadwood and hunt me like prey?" His eyes flickered with a familiar, possessive spark. The same way he had looked at her in the village, before their world shattered.
Because you're mine. You were always mine. I met you first. I loved you first. No one else can have you except me.
She had expected rage, denial, excuses, but not this twisted declaration of love. His words coiled like a serpent in her gut. And then she laughed. She couldn't hold it in. The situation was too peculiarly cruel. "You burnt my village, Brandon. You killed my parents. Sold everyone I knew. How can you call that love?" His jaw clenched, a flicker of shame quickly extinguished. He stepped forward, his face illuminated by the wall torches.
I did what I had to do, Ruby. Everything I've done. It was to protect you.
"So you protected me by enslaving me? By having your people bully and torture me? What a twisted love you have."
You don't understand. I brought you to safety, into my pack. I wanted to crown you as my queen, but you ran. You ruined everything I built for you.
"No, you ruined everything. You did." Brandon's face twisted. He hit his chest as if trying to pound the truth into himself.
You think I wanted this? I grew up in the slave quarters. My father didn't want me. I watched my mother die. When I learned my father was the king, I felt betrayed. I had to challenge him, to earn my right. Kaelan had everything, a brilliant future, a happy past, handed to him on a golden plate. I had nothing but dirt.
He didn't deserve what happened to him.
Yes, he does. It was him or me. I am the oldest. The throne was mine by right. My father gave it to him because he had a better mother. Do you know what I did to get here? How much blood is on my hands?
He was so close now she could feel his breath. Fear gripped her. He wouldn't kill her, but she dreaded what he would do to keep her.
I killed him.
The admission hung in the air, suffocating.
The witch came to me. She offered me what no one else would. He was the favorite, always the favorite. I killed my father and let the witch handle my brother. I just never thought he'd still be alive.
You murdered your own father?
He made me do it. The witch said Kaelan was corrupted. She said I was chosen.
He got even closer, his shaking hands reaching for her face.
I did it all for us, Ruby, for our future.
She swallowed hard. The little shadow hissed at her feet. Play along. I believe you. Something in him crumpled. Relief washed over his face.
You do?
Of course. But let me think. Let me breathe. Everything is happening too fast. She moved toward the window, slow, calculated. The little shadow scuttled beside her, its form cracking quietly. Brandon noticed. His eyes hardened.
You're planning something.
Ruby froze. He surged forward, gripping her shoulders.
You always run. Not this time. Not again.
Brandon, he shoved her back. At that moment, the door rattled. A second lock engaged, then a third. The brutal scrape of metal echoed as heavy bars fell into place with a final, sickening thud. He was sealing her in, a possession in a gilded cage.
I won't lose you to him. Not to Kaelan. Not to anyone. You're mine.
Ruby's blood ran cold. Everything was spiraling out of his control. He backed toward the sealed door, his expression unraveling into panic and obsession.
I'll fix everything. I'll kill the witch. I'll take the throne. I'll make you understand.
Then he was gone. The door slammed, the locks turned, and a deep, hopeless silence swallowed the room whole. Ruby's eyes flicked to the ring on her finger. Its dull surface seemed to thrum with a deep, restrained energy. She knew its terrible limitation. It could transport her. But only once it had painfully recharged. A single precious attempt. And you expect me to sneak past everyone, and the witch, with this? It holds one use before it falls into slumber. That is why we must be precise. We must choose the moment. Ruby nodded, her mind already mapping the castle. She knew the slave quarters like a scar, but the upper levels were a mystery. Hours passed. Dawn brought a cold, gray light. A maid finally entered with a tray, her face a mask of bland obedience. Ruby, who hadn't slept, picked up a spoon. "Spit it out!" Ruby coughed, choking, barely forcing the bit of soup from her mouth. She looked up at the maid, who was now smirking. A cold rage, familiar and sharp, washed over Ruby. Kindness is weakness when it is a leash. She was not that weak human anymore. In one swift motion, she was on her feet. Her hand closed around the maid's throat. With the other, she tipped the entire bowl of poisoned soup down the woman's gasping mouth. The maid thrashed, then slumped, lifeless, to the floor. Ruby stood over the body, her breath coming in short gasps. Her first kill. It acted quickly. You would be the one cooling on the stones if you had hesitated. Now move. This is our chance. With clinical speed, Ruby arranged the body on the bed, covered it, and donned the maid's simple dress. Using the key from the corpse, she unlocked the door and locked it again from the outside. They will smell you, you know. Your scent is unique. We only need to fool them for a bit, enough to get what we want, right? Lead the way. The shadow guided her through twisting corridors to a heavy oak door. The air here smelled of burnt herbs and cold iron. Inside, the witch's room was a nightmare of power. Candles floated. Jars of writhing, magical residue lined shelves. The very air shimmered with hostile enchantments. Ruby scanned the room. Nothing. Not here, but it is close. Look beyond what your eyes see. Then she saw it. A portal, shimmering like a heat haze on the far wall. Its edges crackled with unstable energy.
That feral beast will be collared before sunrise, or I will skin the lot of you.
Kaelan. The word was a stab to her heart. The noise outside grew. There was no time. Ruby didn't think. She leapt through the pulsating portal. The air changed instantly. Damp, earthy, tinged with sulfur. She stumbled into a vast, furnished cave. Magical symbols glowed on the walls. It was a hidden lair. Her eyes landed on an altar. A single grotesque puppet lay upon it, riddled with pins. It called to her, a dark, familiar pull. Before she could move, a hound of shadow and sinew emerged, teeth bared. Ruby turned and ran, not for the cave entrance, but for the only other source of magic she could feel. Another, smaller portal nestled in the rock. She threw herself through it. She stumbled onto an open hilltop, night wind whipping her hair. And there, in the distance, she saw it. Her castle. Their castle. Towers were wreathed in flames, smoke staining the sky. Her breath left her in a gasp. "The key! We must find it! The chaos serves us!" Her heart tore in two. Something beckoned to her, towards the castle. She wondered about Kaelan. Did they catch him? Was he safe? After an agonizing moment, she gritted her teeth. A deal was a deal. She followed the shadow's pull to a great, hollowed tree. Reaching inside, her fingers closed not around a key, but around a cold green gem. Shapes moved inside it. A faint, collective scream whispered from its core.
"And what do you think you will do with that, little shaman?"
The witch's smile was a knife in the dark. Ruby stood frozen, the cold, screaming gem hidden behind her back. She thought of the ring, of escape, but the witch's next words speared through her.
"Your beast is on his knees before the entire pack, naive to think he could fight a war alone."
"You're lying. Why would he go to the castle?"
"Love? Perhaps. What you shared was to my advantage. He was meant to guard the seals, but I have a better puppet now."
Love. The word was a bittersweet sting. Kaelan, harsh, rude, distant Kaelan, loving her. It felt impossible, and yet a fragile hope kindled in her chest. A vision shimmered before her. The Alpha's courtyard, torchlight, a jeering pack. And in the center, Kaelan, massive, slumped, his golden eyes dimming. Brandon stood over him, a silver sword raised high, face twisted with triumphant agony. "No, do not believe her. It is glamour."
"A choice, little shaman, my gift. Come back with me, kill the beast yourself, or die here."
"He's dying either way. Why give me the choice?" Her heart hammered, a deafening drum in her ears. All she could see was the beast dying. She didn't want him to die.
"How about I kill you in front of him, let him watch, or die with him? A pretty tragic end, on my terms."
Ruby's mind was a storm. Go back, free the spirits, but let Kaelan die? Or go to him, to die holding his paw in a final futile act of weakness? She saw her parents' faces, Brandon's lying smile, Kaelan's eyes in the library, the first flicker of something that wasn't fury. What did he truly look like? As a last, desperate gamble, she thought of the ring. "Teleport us both. I'll go with you." They stepped through a portal, and the scene unfolded like a waking nightmare. The courtyard, the pack. Kaelan, a mountain brought low. He growled, a weak, pained sound, when he saw her. Brandon turned, his face lighting up with euphoric madness.
"You finally chose me, my Luna."
He flipped the sword, offering her the hilt. She took its deadly weight. Slowly, she walked to the beast. Kaelan looked at her, and then he closed his eyes. Acceptance. If her survival demanded his heart, he would give it. Instead of letting the blade fall, Ruby swung sideways. The sword clattered to the stones. Brandon stumbled back, clutching the deep gash across his chest, betrayal etching his face. Ruby saw only Kaelan. His golden eyes held hers, confused, understanding, weary, proud. No, I choose him, she dropped, grabbing a fistful of his blood-matted fur. She focused on the ring, her will screaming, "Take us home." The world dissolved in a wrenching pull. When it solidified, she was in the cursed castle's great hall. She turned to smile at Kaelan. Her hand was empty. His fur had slipped through her fingers like smoke. She collapsed. The ring on her finger was a dead, gray, cracked stone. He was gone. She'd left him. She'd failed. A raw sob tore from her, then hardened into a cold, sharp purpose. She pushed up, following the little shadow's guidance deep underground, to a chamber of stone pillars etched with agonized symbols. A single pillar held a keyhole. "You wanted freedom, so do I." She shoved the gem into the lock and turned. The earth shook. From the walls, the floor, the air itself, spirits poured forth, a vortex of anguish and rage. They swirled around her once, then streamed away like a silent hurricane. The little shadow reformed, not as a cup, but as a solemn child. "Thank you. It is sad your beast is lost. But see the gift. You will have a shell. A spirit loyal only to you, to fight for you." "What are you?" "We are the Sylvan. The witch imprisoned us, consumed our years to fuel her immortality. You are the last Sylvan. If you want answers, you will find them in the cursed castle. It belonged to the Sylvan before the wolves conquered." With that, the child shape dissolved, joining the exodus. Ruby was alone. Then she remembered the rose. She ran through the empty castle to the window. There it was, withered. A single, trembling petal clung to the stem, holding a last drop of crimson. Hope. She turned and ran. She ran through the deadwood, spirits flowing like a vengeful river above her. She ran until her lungs were fire, past the shattered gates, through the chaos of clashing wolves and screaming guards. In the center of the storm was a still, dark patch. Kaelan. A silver sword was buried in his chest. His body was motionless. Above him, two faint, familiar spirits, her parents, hovered, their translucent hands pressed to the wound, pouring their fading light into him in a desperate, failing effort to dam the tide of death. "No!" She stumbled forward, falling to her knees beside him. His golden eyes were open, glassy, the light in them a dying pinprick. "Kaelan, look at me!" Only the wails of spirits answered. Her parents' ghostly faces turned to her, their eyes holding infinite sadness and a silent plea. "Hurry!" Then she remembered. The true ritual, not the curse of binding, but the vow of becoming. Her hands shook as she placed them over her parents, on the cursed hilt. She bowed her head, her forehead touching the cold metal. "By my soul, not as chain, but as shelter. By my life, not as theft, but as gift. What was broken, I mend. What was sundered, I unite. Our fates were two threads. Now let them be one rope." A pure gold light erupted from her heart. It flowed down her arms, into the sword, into Kaelan's chest. Her parents' spirits smiled. Their forms glowed, then softened, weaving their light into hers, a final blessing, before fading into the ritual's glow. The silver sword dissolved into light. Kaelan's body arched off the ground in a soundless roar. Then he went still. The light vanished. Silence. He lay there, a giant wolf, eyes closed. No, please, no! She crumpled over him, her body racked with sobs. She had lost. Then, a faint pulse of light under her cheek. From the scar over his heart, now a silver line, a soft light glowed. Once, twice. The massive form began to shimmer. The wolf's shape softened, receding like mist at dawn. The dark fur melted away, limbs reshaping with quiet golden whispers. Where the beast had lain, now lay a man. Pale, marked by a fierce silver scar. His face was sharp, noble, etched with pain and ancient weariness. His hair was the dark charcoal of his fur. His eyes, molten gold, fluttered open. They found hers. Bleary, then clearing with a shock of soul-deep recognition. A human hand, pale, trembling, lifted. His knuckles gently brushed a frozen tear from her cheek.
Ruby.
Around them, the battle raged. Spirits tore at the witch's magic. Wolves howled. But in the eye of the storm, there was only the whisper of his breath, the warmth of his hand on her face, and the impossible, silent truth. The beast was gone. The man had returned.